Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 Report, episode 302. How's everybody going? I just saw breaking news on here on my watch. It said DOJ contacts lawmakers after video urges troops to defy illegal orders. That's all I know at this time, but that just broke over the news just a second ago. So I don't know if that, yeah, that could be a bad situation, and it entails what I will be going over also this morning. Feels like, man, I was just got off the air 5 hours ago. That's my morning report, and then I'm doing the main JP8 report right now. But welcome to Thursday's edition of the JP8 Report, episode 302. And I'm calling this, I saw a headline on Fox a while ago, and that sounds like a good one, so give them the credit for the headline. It's Walz to Trump, turn the temperature down. There's a lot to that, and I would not doubt if that headline I just saw has anything to do with that, because I bet it does. So before we get down and get started going, getting some business going on here with the JP8 report, I want to ask you, don't forget to click that follow button if you are not a follower of the JP8 report, and then right next to it, click that thumbs up for the like, and please share it. And if you feel like it, just asking. There's that tip button if you feel like you want to help me out a little bit with the show. There's that button that says tip. It's part of Rumble Wallet, and it's a new thing. Rumble just started. I might be able to talk about it in a little while. Depends on how many live viewers I get. But I'm going to scroll down to it just in case I get my minimum numbers. If it's on here, there it is. I will definitely talk about it. Okay. And I'm almost there anyway, but I got to go further on down the show. But yeah, so, and we simulcast from Rumble to X, ScrewTube, and Fakebook. Okay, so we got all those avenues covered right now. And then, so let's get started with the America 250. So that would be, I had a letter this morning. It was like extremely long. But now I got, did I freeze up or not? Nope, I didn't freeze. Okay. It's this one is just a little bit over a page. It's from Jonathan Turnbull Sr. to General George Washington, 15 January 1776. Okay, so sir, I have received your agreeable letter on the 7th. About Captain Spears. The condition and circumstances of the colony of New York gives me pain, lest the friends to America liberty in that colony should be too much neglected and become disheartened, and inimical designs and mischievous operations of others succeed. I have received credible information that the provincial Congress there had spent some time just before they adjourned to the 1st of February in debating whether they should not address Mr. Tyron for the purpose of calling the General Assembly of that colony to revive the old scheme adopting the parliamentary insult of the 20th of February last, which was rejected. Surely our friends want to be strengthened and our enemies to be checked. The following is an exact from a letter that was from one of our friends to another dated December 27th, 1775. Just after you left town, the Phoenix, a 40-gun ship, arrived and anchored just before Mr. Drake's, and in 2 or 3 days after the Asia, in company of the Duchess of Gordon, came and anchored opposite to Peake's ship, so that they were highly honored General Dalrymple is on board the Phoenix, and it is rumored that they have 200 troops concealed on board, which has for near a week past kept us on pretty hard duty. The Colo, I don't know, it's an abbreviation. The Colo has slept, or the Colonel has slept in the barracks 2 or 3 nights. If they come, I hope to give a good ACOT of them. We have some excellent field pieces, and if they visit us, the gates will be opened. I know what that means. And we'll welcome them with a few resolves of the Continental Congress, which is the name of one of the pieces. I wrote a letter to President Hancock dated on the 6th of January and another one of our delegates at Congress requesting that more effectual measures may be taken for the security of New York to prevent our enemies from being supplied with provisions, furnished with intelligence, and from having an opportunity to use every artifice to insult and injure us from that quarter. It therefore gave me sensible pleasure to find that you have adopted the measures mentioned in yours with great cheerfulness called by council, and with their advice appointed Colonel Waterbury, Lieutenant Colonel Bradley, and Major Hobby Fields officers for one of the regiment, Colonel Ward, Lieutenant Colonel Lewis, and Major Douglas for another, sent a proclamation to the 2 colonels and orders to them with the rest of the field officers by voluntary enlistment to raise 750 men each to join and assist Major General Lee, with the encouragement that they should be entitled to the same pay, wages, and billeting allowed the troops before Boston during the time they serve, and to dismiss soon when the service would be conveniently admitted the field officers of each regiment to select captains in Salterburns from those in the standing militia, if needed, to request a chief officer of the militia's companies to call their companies together with the purpose of enlisting the men with expedition and to prevent difficulty for want of ammunition, have ordered Captain Niles, commander of our armed schooner Spy, to take on board half a ton of powder and transport 400 pounds to New Haven, 200 pounds to Norwalk, and 400 pounds to Stamford, with orders to him to follow such directions as Major General Lee may give to the service he is employed in, and to execute the same until dismissed by him with further orders from me. Wished, but failed to have the pleasure of a short interview with him. When my orders were ready very early on Saturday morning last, Captain Sears took them, and I apprehend he got to Hartford by noon. I wrote to Major General Lee, informing of what he had done to me. I have no doubt but the men on the westward part of this colony will rapidly and expeditiously engage in service. May the Supreme Director of all events add to his blessing on our endeavors to preserve, support, and maintain the constitutional liberties of these colonies, which he hath made it to our duty to do. 13 Indians from the Conewaga tribe came to visit me on the 13th and seemed well pleased to have a conference on our affairs and expressed their belief of my information that they were friends and brothers, and yesterday proceeded on their way to you. I am with great esteem and regard, Your Excellency's most obedient, humble servant, Jonathan Trumbull Sr. That was a good letter, including the part where they were naming the pieces. Oh man, that was cool. Where was that? Visit us. The gates will be open. Where did they name those cannons? I know I read that in here. Phew, man. Well, I liked it. Man, I may just read this again. Let's see. Just after Phoenix. Well, I can't find it now. All right. I have to look for it later. That was awesome. That was awesome. See, this is why I read these letters, because there's no telling what you find out about. Like I was saying this morning, you need to find out what's in the hearts and minds of these political and revolutionary leaders during our revolution, and also to and read the writings, how everything comes together, and that's how we got our start as a country. That is why I do that. All right. So next is more breaking news. Hold on. Watch live. White House holds briefing as Trump weighs military action in Iran. Okay, cool. All right. So meanwhile, back at the ranch. All right. So we have the Dalmatian guys. Okay, Dalmatian burgers. They are smash burgers and dogs made right here in Copper's Cove. All their ingredients are fresh and homemade, including their buns. They have their hours are Monday through Saturday for lunch from 11 to 2. And then for dinner, that will be Tuesday through Saturday, 7:30 to 5:30 to 7, unless they sell out. And they sell out a lot. All right. And I actually went down and visited them on Monday for lunch and lost a Star Wars trivia question, which is unbelievable because I hardly ever miss out on a Star Wars trivia. All right. So with that being said and done, we are, oh, wow. Did y'all, okay. Before we get into this just broke just a little while ago. They just expanded on it. Okay. On Fox News, federal prosecutors indict 26 people for allegedly fixing college basketball games in widespread conspiracy. 17 games, 17 NCAA Division I programs over 3 years. Federal prosecutors in Pennsylvania announced Thursday that at least 26 people were indicted in an alleged transactional criminal scheme to fix NCAA Division I men's basketball games and Professional Chinese Basketball Association games. And it said, prosecutors say the participants bribed CBA, that's the Chinese one, to underperform and help ensure, well, if they underperform when I'm playing basketball, I'm on par with them, man. And through various sports books, arranged large wagers to be placed on those games against that team. Wow. What is the one about the NCAA I just saw? Those participating for Tulane, Nichols, St. Louis University, DePaul. I saw come over my watch that several players from DePaul were openly texting about throwing the game against St. John's. And that's what I was trying to find. I don't see it on this one. That is crazy. Man. And you talk about NIL, I think it is. If I'm wrong, let me know. NIL, about how they can get paid millions of dollars to compensate them for going to college, which costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars for our kids and stuff. And they go and throw basketball games. Wow. Okay, so let me get back on this right here. Okay, I'm right there right now. All right, so insurrection. Everyone's talking about insurrection right now, right? Because the president said earlier, he said this on Truth Social. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That's what I'm talking about, all right? The Insurrection Act, I believe, has been instituted for about 30 times in the history of our country, and that act goes back to 1807. Okay, so I have a reference sheet, two different reference sheets on the Insurrection Act, okay? And one of them deals with posse comitatus, which is really important, so all of us that are in the Army know what posse comitatus is. Okay, so while Article 2 of the Constitution makes the President the Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Navy, Article 1 of the Constitution gives the Congress specific authority to provide for calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, as well as raise and support armies and make rules for the government and regulation for the land and naval forces. Article 4 of the Constitution guarantees to every state a Republican form of government and obligates the federal government to protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. Okay, the Insurrection Act. Okay, the Insurrection Act, originally enacted in 1807. The Insurrection Act is the primary law defining when the president may deploy regular military and National Guard forces to suppress domestic unrest, amended twice during and after the Civil War to address rebellions and allow for the enforcement of civil rights over state objections. It is now codified in 10 U.S. Code subsection 251 through 255 and provides 3 sets of authorizations. Subsection 251. Whenever there is an insurrection in any state against the government, the president may, upon the request of its legislature or its governor, if the legislature cannot be convened, call into federal service such of the militia as of other states in the number requested by that state, and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to suppress the insurrection. Section 252. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages or rebellion against authority of the United States may it impractical to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state or such of the armed forces he considers necessary to enforce laws and suppress the rebellion. That's one he should be considering right there. Section 253. The president, by using the militia or the armed forces, or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy if it hinders the execution of the laws of that state or of the United States within that state, and if any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution or secured by law, or the constitutional authorities of that state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect their right, privilege, or immunity, or give that protection, or opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States, or impedes the course of justice under those laws. In any situation covered by Clause 1, the state shall be considered to have denied the equal protection of the laws secured by the Constitution. So he's got 252 and 253. And then there's 254. 254, meanwhile, requires the president to issue a proclamation that immediately orders the insurgent to disperse and retire peacefully to their abodes within a limited time whenever he or she wishes to rely on these authorities. And 255 defines state for the purpose of the above to include Guam and the Virgin Islands, and said presidents have used Insurrection Act in other non-state territories not expressly included by this section. Okay, so he has 252 in his favor, he has 253 in his favor, and if he does either one of those, he needs to do section 254 and telling the people in that area, go home now, by give them like 6 hours to go home, disperse and go home. All right. And then the posse comitatus side of it is originally acted in 1878 as a backlash against the military occupation of the southern states during the Civil War. The Posse Comitatus Act, as codified by 18 U.S. Code 1385, makes it a crime for anyone to willfully use any part of the Army or Air Force as a posse comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws, except in cases and circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress, including by the Insurrection Act. The Defense Department has traditionally extended these same protections to the Marine Corps and the Navy by regulation, subject to certain exceptions. No one has ever been criminally prosecuted under the Posse Comitatus Act, but it has been provided a basis for contesting various forms of law enforcement action. Subsequent case law has reached conflicting conclusions on whether it is intended to prohibit any military U.S. involvement in law enforcement or only participation in activities that risk hostile engagements with civilians. The executive branch has generally taken the latter view, which is right. Wow. Okay. So we have a rough overview, a very good overview of what the Insurrection Act is. So the president, if he invokes the Insurrection Act, he should be using sections 252, 253, and he has to talk about 254 and give them a time to withdraw from the area. Okay? So, according to Fox News, the president warned Thursday that he would invoke the Insurrection Act if the people in Minnesota don't obey the law and continue attacking federal agents there. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators, okay, that is from the Truth Social. The president's warning comes after a second ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis in recent days. That's my next article. Okay, I can talk about that one. The ICE agent shot the alleged illegal immigrant in the leg on Wednesday during an arrest attempt. The Department of Homeland Security claims the agent fired at the subject because he was fearing for his life and safety after the individual resisted arrest and violently assaulted the police. The Insurrection Act of 1807 has not been invoked since the 1992 Los Angeles Rodney King riots. All right, I remember those. My ex-brother-in-law was 7th Infantry Division. They were activated and they were stationed on the outside of Los Angeles, pending orders of going into the city. All right. The order allows the president to deploy military to suppress rebellions, enforce federal laws. If invoked, it would grant Trump the authority to federalize the National Guard and deploy active duty forces to restore order. It would temporarily override the Posse Comitatus Act, which normally restricts the use of military for domestic law enforcement. That's a serious matter. So if you don't know, if you've been hiding under a rock, all right, last night ICE was in Minnesota and they were taking a person into custody that they knew who was. He was from, Venezuela, and he had an assault conviction on him. So they were taking him into custody, and he decided he didn't want to be arrested. So what he did was he fled the scene in the car, crashed the car, got out, tried to run. He got tackled, I guess, by the ICE agent who was trying to take him into custody. And 2 other people out of nowhere came running out of the house with a snow shovel and a broomstick and started hitting the ICE officer. The ICE officer started fighting back against them. The Venezuelan guy took a snow shovel and proceeded to join in and hit the police officer again. And then the police officer pulled his weapon, shot the illegal alien in the leg, and all 3 of them ran and barricaded themselves inside of a house, or an apartment, and then consequently gave themselves up and was taken into custody and was over with. And so no one died. It was just, it was an engagement, right? And throughout the night, there had been volleys of CS and pepper spray going all over. Not only that, the rioters, because they were rioting, were cussing, screaming, blowing those, I forgot what the word is for it, but the dog whistles were just driving them nuts and firing fireworks at them, incendiary devices. I call them IEDs because that's what they are. This went on for night. I went to bed about 10 o'clock last night, and it was crazy. And it's been going on like that. It's been going on like that forever in cities. Case in point, before we get to the next deal, here in Texas, Governor Abbott reported out that an illegal alien rammed an ICE vehicle in San Antonio. I mean, San Antonio was a long way from Minneapolis, but it did. The picture is a Honda Accord smashing into another vehicle. But Greg Abbott is blasting what he calls organized efforts to obstruct federal immigration enforcement after a suspected illegal alien in San Antonio allegedly rammed ICE vehicles with a car. Abbott reported that the incident injured an agent and sent him to the hospital. He added that the incident shows how dangerous the situation has become for officers on the front lines and called for those who attack or impede immigration agents to be arrested. The Abbott statement followed an incident in San Antonio in which the driver was suspected of being in the country illegally, tried to flee ICE operation by repeatedly ramming vehicles that boxed them in. And there's a video on it, shows the suspected driver using his car as a weapon, striking ICE vehicles from the front and the back before being taken into custody. And one ICE agent reported hospitalized with neck injuries after his vehicle was hit. Who wrote this? Sidney Henry wrote that for the Texas scorecard. All right. I might as well tell you about the next one since we're on here. Illegal aliens cost Texas hospitals in 2025 over $1 billion. All right. Texas hospitals incurred more than $1 billion in healthcare costs for patients not lawfully present or being in the United States or FY25, according to new data collected from the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. I know someone that used to work for them. The figures were collected under an executive order issued by Governor Greg Abbott in August 2024, which requires hospitals to report the cost of inpatient emergency care provided to individuals in the country illegally. Under Abbott's orders, hospitals are also required to inform patients that responses regarding immigration status will not affect their care as required by law. All right? So I just want to give you an idea about that. And while we're on the Texas scorecard, might as well tell you real quick. Okay, I got that. So there are 766 hospitals in Texas. We have more hospitals in Texas than any other state. And according to, because you correlate the cost of illegal aliens being given Medicaid and health care and stuff like that, right? PJ O'Rourke said, if you think health care is expensive now, wait till you see what it costs when it's free. That's a very good point. And also, today in history on the Texas scorecard, January 15th, 1870, the donkey was first used as to symbolize the Democrats. All right? Just so you know. And it was in Harper's Ferry by Thomas Nash. And then 4 years later, we were, as Republicans, were identified with an elephant by the same guy. All right? So let me get it back on there. We'll go back to the JP8 report. Got distracted there for a little bit. Any comments or anything about the Insurrection Act or illegal immigration before we start moving on? If not, I'm going to move on to the next area. Now, the president also is saying he is going to get to the bottom part of who is funding these nonprofits and and instituting this chaos that's going on in our country. The president said that he believes the woman fatally shot by U.S. ICE in Minneapolis last week may have been a professional agitator, and indicated that the government will uncover the funding sources behind such anti-law enforcement agitation. I'm starting to lose my voice. Hold on, I can fix that. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement, Trump said on a Saturday gaggle on Air Force One. They were harassing. He said, noting, I think, frankly, they were professional agitators. The president added that he would like to find out, and we're going to find out who's paying for it with their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement would not be in a position where they have to pull up with all this stuff. What It continues on what that woman and her friend and what their other friends are doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement. It's outrageous, he said. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security retweeted a post which Republican Lance Gooden of Texas asserted that anti-ICE protesters are being funded. The anti-ICE mobs are anything but organic. Dark money is bankrolling far-left groups like ICE Watch and lighting the fuse. Americans deserve to know who's cutting the checks. A person weaponized her vehicle against law enforcement in Miami, Minneapolis. The individual was impeding law enforcement and weaponized her vehicle against ICE. The officer duly acted in self-defense. Okay, so they're going to get to the bottom. You got to look at George Soros. You got to look at all these other groups like that, and you're going to find. So, what happens with all this Medicare fraud? That stuff is going on, and these daycare centers with no students. These people they're funneling money through these organizations so they can fund operations against Republicans. That's the only way I could see, right? You know what? I am behind. Okay. So, and then nonprofit revenue totals surge amid growing scrutiny after major fraud cases. Hundreds of billions of dollars flowed through U.S. nonprofit organizations in 2024. Tax filings show as major fraud cases, including in Minnesota, put new focus on how taxpayer-funded funds are overseen. The figures are from ProPublica's nonprofit Explorer and were reviewed by Fox News, which confirmed that state-by-state revenue totals. I'm going to have to find that. That'd been a good graphic. For nonprofit organizations, revenue refers to the total income reported on tax filings, not profit or money pocketed by individuals, and can make government grants and reimbursements, donations, service fees, and investment income and contracts for public service. The following California and was New York, where 132,000 nonprofits reported collective of $448 billion. The fact is, they got to get it. They got to do a crackdown on nonprofits because a lot of these guys are funneling money through them and out where nobody sees it. Okay. Man, I hate that 3-letter word right there. Can y'all see it? I got to do my taxes. Wow. All right. So, do y'all ever see, what's her name? Madison Sheehan on TV being interviewed like on Fox or Newsmax? Well, she resigns from ICE. The deputy director of ICE resigned so she could run for Congress. She's going to run in the Ohio 9th Congressional District. She's a Republican, and I do believe she has challengers. It says Madison Sheehan, the deputy director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is resigning from her role to run for Congress. Multiple federal law enforcement sources told Fox News. The announcement was made initially this morning. The 6 sources added Sheehan is running for Ohio's 9th congressional district, currently represented by Democrat Representative Marcy Kaffour, who assumed office in 1983 and the longest-serving woman in the House of Representatives. Wow. No excuses. Let's get it done. Send a message to Sheehan's campaign website. Former ICE Director, Deputy Director Madison Sheehan is flying to protect American jobs, American paychecks, and American values in Ohio's 9th congressional district. I didn't know who she was until I saw her picture. That's when I figured her out. Alrighty. Oh man, I'm all messed up right now. Give me a second. All right. Next. This was a fun one. I almost led with this morning. This was so cool. So last week there was a privileged petition, I think it is, that was pushed through Congress, and they did the preliminary vote in the Senate, and several Republicans voted to repeal this one law. And so they had the formal vote on it yesterday, and Trump won. All right. Senate Republicans successfully spiked a bipartisan attempt to curb President Trump's war powers authority after a pair of the GOP lawmakers nearly reversed their positions. It was Senator Hawley and Senator Moody changed their vote in order to be able to get the law vetoed. I think it was vetoed. The resolution was tanked on a 51-50 vote, and with J.D. Vance coming in and breaking the tie, turning in the arcane procedure move served as the victory for both President and Senate Majority Leader John Thune. He said, "We don't have troops in Venezuela. There is no kinetic action. There are no operations. There are no bonds. There are no bonds." I lost it, man. All right. I still think it's very fair for Republicans to question why we ought to be having this type of discussion right now. So, normally, I think it was 11 Republicans voted against this bill, and they got enough turn to where it would not pass cloture vote. And then we have Washington Post reporter's home searched by the FBI. Okay, yeah, I will do this one. The FBI executed a search warrant on Washington Post reporter Hannah Natetson's home on Wednesday as part of a probe into a government contractor accused of illegally retaining federal classified materials. Nathanson was on her Virginia home at the time of the search, and a warrant stated law enforcement was investigating Artio Perez Luis, a systems administrator in Maryland, when the president has the top security. Oh man, she has How did she get a top secret security clearance? This is crazy. All right. So they went in, they raided her house, and they brought out a whole bunch of stuff. The person that was responsible for getting this to her, I believe, was captured last week. He's already inside the judicial system, and she is going to be joining him. Thank goodness. We don't need any more traitors. That's the second one in 2 weeks. That is crazy. Perez Lujunas is accused of using databases and repositories to search for access and a view of classified intelligence report related to a foreign country, and he is accused of raking in a criminal screenshot of the report and printing it. That's crazy. How do you put a classified report on a non-class system? All right. So Attorney General Pamela Bondi put on X this past week at the request of the Department of War, the Department of Justice, and FBI executed a search warrant at the home and of a Washington Post journalist who was obtaining and reporting classified and leaked information from a primary contractor. And they suspected the leak was this guy the whole time. All right. Don't spill the beans and you'll be just fine, right? All right. So, if you're just joining in, don't forget to click the follow button and the like button and the share button, right? And we've been going through this Insurrection Act. We're talking about Miss Sheehan resigning from the ICE so she can run for Congress. She is a Republican, right? But the deal about the Insurrection Act, that was pretty thorough. That was good. I'm glad I got most of that. So we'll have fun with this one. Senators Hawley and Moody yesterday, they were tearing apart this one doctor when he asked, can men get pregnant? Republican Senators Josh Hawley and Ashley Moody of Florida weighed in Texas after a tense exchange during a Senate hearing on chemical abortion pills went viral online. The moment unfolded during a Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee help protecting women, exposing the dangers of chemical abortion drugs. After the hearing, Hawley reacted to an ex-post alongside of the video saying, "Spoiler alert, men can't get pregnant." He later followed up with a second ghost saying, "Can men get pregnant? Not a difficult question." Oh, he's having too much fun there, isn't he? All righty. So I got two more I want to do. I've pretty much gone through almost everything here. The vice president and I think Secretary of State, they met with their counterparts down in Cedar. Where is that? Oh, Greenland. Yeah. They met with their compatriots in Greenland about the U.S. acquiring that territory from Denmark. because Greenland had petitioned NATO to defend their country from the U.S., and the U.S. is the main contributing part of NATO itself. So they should actually be taking the sides of the U.S. instead of someone else. I don't believe we're going to shoot bullets there, but they want to peacefully acquire the island of Greenland before Russia and China could make inroads onto that island. They're talking about if the U.S. did that, NATO would probably fall apart. But I'm telling you, NATO's going to fall apart on this matter because NATO's letting themselves be thrown apart. All they have to do is what they did for the last 10 months is disconnect the cameras. Don't let people broadcast false things out of Greenland about what's going on there. From you got this foreign affairs minister saying this junk about the United States. I mean, I know we're going one way and they're coming back at us, but in all actuality, how is Denmark going to defend Greenland from China and Russia? I told my wife this morning that while we were eating, you could put a brigade of Chinese military on Greenland and you probably wouldn't even notice that they were there, right? For a whole week or 2 weeks. I wouldn't worry about the Russians because I have another article over here that I haven't read about Russia and their failed military expedition to the Ukraine, how bad it's hurting them. So if we went in militarily and took Greenland, the thing is that they couldn't do nothing about it. Because we hold the classified, the communications aspect, the heavy weapons aspect, the strategic forces aspect, and we could, if we ripped that out of NATO, NATO would be a paper tiger, and they wouldn't go anywhere else but downward with it. The only thing that's keeping NATO together is people crying about Russia, right? Well, that's fine and dandy. But how effective is Russia? If Russia didn't have all their nuclear weapons, would anyone even take them seriously? They've been fighting a war for over 4 years now against the Ukraine. And according to this that I'm reading right here, they're losing 25,000 troops a month. Dead. Killed in action. Every month, they're losing 25,000 soldiers. Right? I can tell you right now, the only problem I have with this article, it does not mention what the casualty numbers are for the Ukraine. That would be nice to get. So, NATO Secretary General said that Russia is losing between 20 and 25,000 troops each month. It is in its war against Ukraine as fighting drags on into the fourth year. Root told the Renew European Global Europe Forum in Brussels that the staggering number of casualties reflect the intensity of Ukraine's defense, but warned that Russia remains NATO's most significant long-term threat. He cited Moscow's now around-the-clock weapons production and a pattern of aggressive behavior that he said shows no sign of easing. Let's not forget that the Russians at the moment are losing massive amounts of their soldiers. In months, this is 20,000 to 25,000 Russians dead. I'm not talking about seriously wounded, killed, dead. 20 to 25,000 a month. When you compare it to the Afghan war in the 1980s, They only lost 20,000 men in 9 years. That's all. Well, they said 10 years, but it was technically 9. Uh, Now they lose these amounts and more in 1 month. So that is an unsustainable on their side. Um, that's a lot of troops. So they're looking at in 4 years at over 250,000 Russian soldiers dead. Uh, with that kind of combat losses and a dwindling population, their capacity with military age males are probably plummeted. So they're not going to be able to sustain a trained operational professional military for several decades to come. So if we were in NATO or not, who knows, right? Uh, if you have any comments, just comment on here for me in the chat, and we can talk about it. But I honestly don't think Russia could present a meaningful attack on the United States or anywhere else, except for maybe Denmark. How is Denmark going to defend Greenland? I don't understand it. I don't. And then the last article I'm going to talk to y'all about today is New York City. So, a city councilman lost one of his employees the other day, and the whole place went crazy because they're like, this guy's a model person that lives and works in the city, and he provides his time with the city council, making sure that they're ready and stuff. Well, it says here, following outrage from New York Mayor Zahn Mamdani over the arrest of city council employee, the Department of Homeland Security shared that the individual named is an illegal immigrant with a previous arrest for assault. According to DHS, the employee Rafael Andres Rubio's Borquest, he's age 53, is a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela. The agency said that despite Rubio's Borquest was being employed by the city council of America's largest city, he has no work authorization and was illegally employed. Further, DHS said that Rubio Borquest has a criminal history, including an arrest for an assault in New York. Rubio Borquest entered the United States on a B2 tourist visa in 2017, which required him to depart the same year, according to DHS. That's how they caught up with him. But it's been 9 years. 9 years he's been on the lam. My daughter mentioned me in a Facebook post. I get all kinds of notifications when I'm doing this. They need to learn to wait till it's all over with. So Mamdani, other city leaders demanded that the man's release on Monday, so it's been a few days. And Kristi Noem said, nope. Ain't going to happen. No way, no shape, no way. He called the arrest an assault on our democracy, on our city, and our values. Yeah, go figure. Alrighty. I'm not going to do a premium today. I'll knock out a whole bunch tomorrow on common sense, and then we'll go hog wild on Monday and try to go through the rest of it. I have uh, I have an interview with a congressional candidate tomorrow, uh, Abraham Garapati. And then I have someone wants to be a county commissioner, and I have a couple on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So I got my work cut out for me with recording interviews and stuff. Uh, let's see, a couple of other things I wanted to bring to y'all about. I talked a little bit about this morning. Officer Garrettson, his funeral is Saturday at the Bell County Expo at 10. It's called the Cadence Bank Center now, but it's going to start at 10. And the city said that the city said the family wants no pictures or recordings or videos of the funeral. Okay, so keep that in mind if you're going out to the Cadence Bank Center and pay your respects. And then Saturday evening at 6, right down the street from my house, at Ogletree Gap Park, they're having a candlelight vigil. Okay, so the next one, nope, wrong way, this one. Okay, this is our Lincoln Reagan. Oh man, never even transferred it over. Okay, the Lincoln Reagan dinner is it's coming up February 21st. If you use that QR code you see down in the bottom left-hand corner, you can get tickets for it. It looks like the picture's a little blurry. I'm going to have to get a new graphic for that one. But the tickets for couples are $60 or $100 or $60 a person. And then you can get preferred table, bronze table, silver table, and a gold table. And all funds are for donating to the Coryell County Republican Party. All right. I didn't make the threshold for a live broadcast. I'll have to make it up as for regular programming. But I wanted to do an ad today. Man. Okay. Work harder tomorrow. All right. Tomorrow it's scheduled a haircut for me at 11:30 for me and my wife. I'm going to let her go in before me. But we're not going to be able to do this at noon tomorrow. So I'm just going to do one podcast tomorrow, and it's going to be at 10 a.m. right after Vince. Okay. So so tomorrow's only one podcast, and then I'll be talking to Mr. Garapati after my haircut. All right. So, any other questions before we go? And don't forget to click that follow button and the like button and the share button. And if you want, click that tip button and leave a tip for me. All right. So, with that being said, show you my socials. I'm on X at James Pierce Jr. I'm on Facebook at James A. Pierce Jr. I'm on YouTube or ScrewTube at the JP8 Report. And I'm on Truth Social at James A. Pierce. So, all right. I just keep stalling for time, I guess. Where am I at? 1 hour and 4 minutes. All right. So, if there's nothing else, I will see y'all tomorrow. And so this is James Pierce with the JP8 Report. I'm out.